Hello, everyone. My name is Wakar, and I'm a lecturer at the School of Computing Science at the University of Glasgow. The work I'm presenting here today, as you can see from the descriptive title, is keeping software engineering students in touch with not only what they are to learn, but with why. My co-authors on this paper are Joseph McGuire, Steve Draper, and Quentin Cutts, all of them academics at the University of Glasgow. So before I go on to outlining the rest of the video presentation, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk about the origins of this work, what got it all started. So I teach for the graduate apprenticeship program, where the students are full-time apprentices while they study with us. So the program is designed in a way to front load our students with some courses which we felt would be useful for them as working full-time apprentices in the industry. So you can see courses like learning a new language, software engineering, testing fundamentals, web application systems. And against this backdrop, the course I was teaching them is one called Practical Algorithms, which has a practical aspect, as you can see from the title, but it's also a somewhat abstract course, which effectively deals with the discrete mathematics subject, which, as if you're familiar with it, gets quite abstract, and you're actually talking about syllogisms and Aristotle and quite abstract concepts, which are a few hops removed from what you would call applied software engineering. So the questions I had going into preparing this course was for myself, actually, what is the narrative here? What is my narrative for this course? How do these topics connect to each other? And first and foremost, it was myself thinking about these questions for me, because it was my first time teaching these quite diverse topics as a single course as well. And then I thought, why would this be useful for my students? And finally, if I have these questions, wouldn't my students have these questions too? And that led to a more involved and general discussion, the result of which you see today, which is still initial work, and we'll be very glad to have feedback from our audience. So the rest of this video is organized into these sections. We'll start with why we think the why is important. So you can call it meta whyness. We'll spend a couple of minutes talking about the challenges which we felt a work like this should address. And then we have one section on talking about the specific route we took towards addressing the challenge, that is using concept maps. And then we have a discussion on why we think concept maps should work, and we embed them into pedagogical theories. Let's have a look at the importance of why. That is, why is it important to convey to students why they're learning something? The answer to this lies in that elusive goal that teachers across the world share, and that is student engagement. We wish for our students to engage with the learning opportunity provided to them by our course. And the reason why students disengage primarily lies with student motivation. Now, there is considerable literature around student motivation. Looking at literature specifically for computing science and software engineering students, there is work by Fessler and their co-authors which suggests that focusing on concepts rather than facts can lead to, and I quote, self-directed construction of knowledge structures for deep and sustainable learning. So you have a route to motivated, deep, and meaningful learning for software engineering students. However, such a focus also implies a focus on concepts and theory, which some students may perceive as not relevant to their profession, even if their employers value it. And there is a temporal aspect to this perception as well. So the answer to why I am learning something may not be apparent at the time it's being learned and may come years or decades later in their profession, as prior work where people interviewed software engineering professionals has indicated. Last but not the least, students may not necessarily share the same motivations as well. So addressing student motivation is not an easy nut to crack. A point we wish to highlight over here is that while motivation is a necessary requirement for student engagement, it's on its own not sufficient, because you might be motivated to study, but if you don't have the right structures, if you do not have a good sense of where to begin or how to proceed once you have begun, then that can lead to disengagement, even if you were motivated to learn something. So whatever tools we bring in to address the motivation of students, it should also ensure, or it should not preclude, the presence of structures in our course, which let students proceed from step one all the way to the end once they are motivated to learn. Let's identify the challenges. The backdrop here is the crucial role motivation plays in learning and how important it is to convey the why of a course to retain motivation and engagement. Before moving on to our proposed methodology, I wanted to clearly highlight the key challenges which any proposed methodology should try to overcome. So the challenges, not surprisingly, would be somewhat different depending on the vantage point one takes. To clarify, why something should be learned can be seen from the student vantage point and is of course of primary importance for student motivation and engagement. However, why something should be taught from the perspective of the teacher might look somewhat different. Now, the teacher is faced with the natural expectation from students and their employers that education in the classroom addresses workplace requirements, in the short to medium term at least. However, a work-based learning degree that is equivalent in academic standing to a regular degree must also take the higher education perspective, where broad-based education is expected and theory and foundational concepts are important. There is another dichotomy which resonates with the first one. On one hand, we have what might be called applied skills, which are generally extrinsically motivated. That is, the motivation comes from the requirements in the workplace with a short to medium term focus. On the other hand, we have what might be called universal truths of a knowledge domain, which are intrinsically motivated and focus, for example, on axioms, theories, laws, and foundational concepts of that domain area, which have a long shelf life and may not have immediate relevance in the workplace. So a teacher's view of why something should be taught will be a balancing act between these considerations, which won't always conveniently overlap. Now, if you look at the student perspective on why to learn something, then in our view, two challenges stand out. First off, there is a temporal aspect to the relevance of something that is being learned. When something is learned and when it might be applied could be separated by months, years, or even decades. Many professionals realize the importance of what they have learned at university years later, and ideally would want to front load this retrospective motivation. We also need to consider the personal viewpoints of students, where there is always a normal variation of experiences, motivations, and prior knowledge anyway. But in a work-based learning setting, the students are apprenticing in a variety of industries and job roles, so there is this added dimension to the variability in student expectations and motivations. Having laid out the challenges, we are now going to look at how concept maps are one of the tools that could be used to address them. The course for which we carried out this exercise is called Practical Algorithms, which, as I briefly mentioned earlier, paints on a somewhat broader canvas than the typical course, bringing together algorithms, data structures, and discrete maths. Concept maps are a graphical tool that can be used to illustrate relationships between concepts. They're similar to related tools like mind maps and topic maps, but for the specific purpose we had in mind, we found concept maps to be the most appropriate. They were developed by Novak in the 70s to help children's understanding of science, and they are based on the cognitive development theory of subsumption. That is, learning takes place by assimilation of concepts into an existing framework in our minds, and that is working very much within the paradigm of the constructivist view of learning. So this is the map that we constructed for this course, and I'm going to take you on a brief tour. So you can see the course title is right at the center of the map, and you have these three branches going to the three main subject areas covered in this course. You can already see that there is a first order connectivity between the three subjects covered in the course, and even at this high level, the connection may not be obvious if you are looking at these topics laid out in a tabular linear fashion. On this side, you have data structures, which are used to implement algorithms. On the other side, you have algorithms, which are obviously a core part of the course. And over here is the discrete mathematics part, which is a somewhat disconnected portion from the rest of the two. In a conventional program, this would have been a separate course. However, there are deep and meaningful connections between discrete math and the rest of the course, so it is sensible to merge them into a single one. But making the connections obvious is something that requires deliberate effort. Now, this highlighted area is actually outside the course domain and shows other courses or even specialization streams which connect to specific concepts within the course. This is keeping the temporal aspect in mind, where students are shown the relevance of what they are learning, not just to other concepts within the course, but to subjects that they may encounter later on in their studies. In a similar vein, over here, we extend the connections to job roles that the apprentices potentially have today or may have later on. These job roles may connect to concepts taught within the course or potentially other subjects in gray I showed you earlier. Now you can see that we have not made connections from job roles to concept map because the plan was to let apprentices do this themselves. So the utility of using concept maps from the teacher's perspective are manifold. One benefit of having a concept map for your course is that before anybody else, it's a personal, internal model of the concepts and their interconnectedness. This I found especially useful teaching a newly designed course for the first time. A concept map like this might also help you create an overarching narrative for the course, because as the course progresses, it is very easy to get lost into the details and miss the forest for the trees. And a concept map can be used by a teacher repeatedly to show students where they are and where the course is going. Concept maps also allows a teacher to highlight the connection between the universal truths that we discussed earlier, and which is what academics tend to gravitate towards, and applied skills that the students will use in the workplace, and hence motivating the overall learning outcomes of the course. Finally, a concept map can be used to identify a suitable order of delivery of topics. From the student vantage point, the utility of a tool like concept maps is that they can appreciate the temporal aspect of knowledge acquisition. That is, when they see concepts that they are learning currently, connected to courses that they may study later on, and they also connect to the workplace that can motivate them to engage better. Students can also use concept maps to track and evaluate their own understanding as the course progresses. There is evidence that letting students develop their own concept maps as a course progresses can be very useful, as it mirrors the evolution of the knowledge construction in their own minds. So, do we have a solution for all the challenges that we talked about earlier? Concept maps on their own, not quite. What we have done is we have framed the problem and highlighted the challenges that come with trying to address it. The problem being, it is important to convey the why to students. Now, conveying this why is to support them, not to teach them, in understanding the why at any time when they feel it is important to know why, which may be different times for different individuals in a single class. For instance, some want to know the why in advance. They cannot listen until they know the point. Others only want to know later when putting together the different chunks they have learned. Some are in between, summarizing to themselves a small segment of the course and working out how it relates to what they had learned earlier and what they will learn next. Others will be prompted by something at work and want to look for and make connections between the issue at work and the course immediately if they can. Now, we have suggested one approach against this backdrop, which can be useful in addressing these different viewpoints and motivations. We feel that there can and should be others that complement such a tool. This is still initial work, in part because of the lockdown. We were not able to really carry out a quantitative or qualitative analysis of the approach, and we will be very happy to hear suggestions on what kind of study could be carried out to further evaluate what we have done. So this concludes the presentation of our paper. We are trying to address the challenge of motivating students, especially learning theoretical concepts in a work-based learning setting. Our approach is embedded in well-established educational theories of constructivism, which emphasizes that the hard part of learning is not like inserting a new knowledge into your head like a USB stick, but discovering where and how the knowledge should be connected in the learner's mind. Our approach is also in line with the theory of connectivism, where knowledge is seen as a network of partial ideas rather than isolated blobs of information. We expect this approach will work well in combination with other pedagogical approaches to achieve the larger goal of motivated, contextualized, and meaningful learning for students, especially in a work-based learning setting. But there is no good reason why this shouldn't scale to other contexts as well. Thank you very much.